When is the right time to max bet on a slot machine? In today's episode, we're going over 5 times when max betting is the key to success. Welcome back, everybody, to the Cowboy Slot Channel, where we bring you experienced advice from years of working in the casinos, tips, reviews, and so much more. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell to stay notified for when we come out with future episodes. If you're new to our channel, be sure to browse our video library for tons of episodes on tips to help you better your slot play, extend your bankroll, and have a better time in the casino. Should I play max bet? This is a question that we get asked a lot as slot techs, and the truth is that there are many slot games out there that do require max in order to take full advantage of the game, but others not so much. So let's rope it in and start with 5 scenarios or things that you should be mindful of when deciding whether to play max bet or not. Number 1 scenario is when your budget allows for it. Now, of course, it goes without saying that you do need to make sure that you have the funds and you have the budget in order to sustain yourself on a game if you are going to play max bet. We always recommend on this channel to use the 1% rule, meaning your bet amount should not exceed 1% of your overall bankroll, or in less math terms, you should try to get at least 100 spins out of the game. For example, even if you sit down at a lower denomination slot machine like a 10-cent machine and you want to play max bet, if max bet on that machine is $10, you should have at least $1,000. You don't want to come into the casino with a $100 bankroll and play $10 a spin. It's going to burn through your budget a lot faster, and it's going to make for a very quick trip at the casino and not allow you to build up your budget like you should. This is one of the biggest mistakes that gamblers make at the casino, is not properly accounting for how much do I really need to play this game. We did a great video on 5 common mistakes that slot players make. I'm going to put a link to that in the card in the upper right hand corner of your screen. We'll also put a link in the video description down below. This is definitely one of those things that would fall on that list. If your budget will not allow you to play max on that game, select a different game or wait until you've built your bankroll up. Number 2, let's talk about slot machines that have a bonus round. Game makers have come out with a lot of new games recently that don't always require max bet in order to get the bonus, but the key is to always check those game rules and check the fine print for anything that might be lurking in there, and you're going to see a good example of that here shortly. Many games, however, especially those classic games, they do require max bet in order to either obtain the bonus or to get a good bonus. Let's look at pinball, for example. On the game of pinball, your bet amount will correlate to how many shots you get in the bonus if you get that bonus symbol. On this game, there is a major difference between betting the minimum and betting the maximum. 1 credit will only yield you 1 shot, whereas max bet will get you 4 or 5 shots depending on the version of the game. So in this particular example, you do want to always budget to play the max on the game of pinball in order to take advantage of the bonus. Now, as I mentioned before, on newer games especially, you always want to double check the game rules because there could be something hiding in there. And now let's take a look at the game of piggy banking. On the popular game of piggy banking, yes, you can get the bonus round, but there is a little nugget of information hiding in those game rules that you need to be aware of. If you look at the game rules in piggy banking, it specifically states that the chances of hitting a jackpot increase with a higher bet multiplier. So this would be another example of a game where you might get the bonus at a lower bet, but your chances of landing that big pig or that grand or some kind of a really big bonus are not going to be as much if you're betting less than max. No one ever reads the fine print, right? But you will now after watching this video. If it has a bonus, always read the rules to see if playing max bet is the best bet. Number 3, let's talk about checking the pay table. Now, this step is a lot easier to do on classic games or a game that has a pay table clearly displayed on either the glass or the screen. But if you're playing a newer video style slot, you may have to do some scrolling through all those game rules to really get to the pay table and look at it, and you might even have to shift your bet amounts around to look at the differences between the bet amounts. On newer games, unfortunately, they do make it complicated for sure to compare different bet amounts. What you're wanting to look for on this step is going to be major differences between bet amount rewards. I'll explain. We're going to use an example game where 777 is the maximum payout. If you look at the pay table of this example game, if it says 1 credit pays 200, 2 credits pays 400, and 3 credits pays 800, you can notice that those numbers are very consistent. They just double as the bet amount increases. So it really, in this particular case, would not be advantageous to play max. Now let's look at the same game using 777 as an example, but with a different pay table. Now, if you're looking at this game and it says 777 for 1 credit pays 200, 2 credits pays 400, and 3 credits pays 10,000, that is a big jump. When you see big jumps like that or big differences in the pay table between bet amounts, that is usually an incentive to play max, and usually an indication that, yeah, you probably want a budget to play maximum bet on that particular game. Again, this step is a lot easier to do with a classic slot machine or a machine that has a pay table clearly displayed where you can see all of the bet amounts. On a newer game, it can be very, very difficult and challenging, and you might have to spend some time going through the game rules and really looking at all the numbers and all the different bets. Remember that casinos bet on players never reading those game rules. They just bet on people walking up, sitting down, and pulling that lever or pushing that button. But now that you've watched this video, you're going to make sure to check those game rules next time you play. This is also part of smart strategy to ensure that you're wagering the proper amount. So make sure that you always take the time to do this at every slot machine that you sit down to play. Number 4, let's talk about certain types of progressives. It's another tricky fine print thing that you should be aware of. Many types of progressives do require max bet in order to obtain that progressive. This is usually always either hidden in the game rules or printed in very small fine print just below the progressive number that you see. Always make sure to look for this. I have seen so many newer games especially that will show this nice lucrative progressive whenever you're playing the game, but in tiny little words right under that number, it specifically says at max credit or at max wager or at max bet played, something like that. So always look at your slot machine before you sit down to play it if that is what your goal is. Many players unfortunately do miss out on these progressives because they don't know. They just see the big number and they don't take the time to look in the game rules or look on the glass to make sure that it's not requiring some kind of a very specific bet like max bet or a certain number of lines in order to obtain that progressive. Again, no one reads the fine print, right? Now, some progressives do not require max bet in order to obtain them, like the must hit by progressives by Ainsworth. If you're not familiar with what a must hit by progressive is, we have tons of videos in our library of not only explaining them, but also playing them, and even in some cases winning some of those progressives. So definitely check out our video library for tons of exciting videos on those must hit by games. And always remember too, with other types of progressive games, like the game of piggy banking, the example that we gave earlier, it might not require max bet in order to get those progressives, but you do have a better chance of getting those progressives if you do bet max, and that is listed in the game rules. So again, as a reminder, check those game rules, especially with games with bonuses and progressives. Finally, let's talk about our last tip, tip number 5, and that is when you're up and when you're doing well. Now, we talk a lot on this channel about building up your bankroll and when to push your luck, pushing your luck at the right time. This would be one of those cases. Maybe you've had a great day at the casino, you've done really good at a lower denomination machine or a lower bet amount. Now would be the time to really evaluate and see if you want to press your luck a little bit more and either play max or move to a higher denomination machine. When you do this though, always make sure that you are only playing on your winnings and not dipping into your original bankroll that you brought with you. Your original bankroll that you brought with you, set it aside to go home with, put it in a lockbox, hand it to a friend that you trust and tell them not to give it to you until you've left the casino. Just something to protect that original amount so that way you're only playing on your winnings. Remember, majority of gamblers don't do these steps and they don't properly strategize their budget and how much to spend and exactly what bet amount is right for their current situation. It's not just a matter of pushing a button or pulling a handle. It's a matter of proper calculation. You're playing a game of math, so you want to make sure that you, the player, are also doing some calculations and making sure that your bet amount is right for your current situation. With all of this in coordination with our other tips and tech-based factual strategies that we give here on this channel, from actual experience working with these devices, you can improve your chances at slot machines and you can have a better overall time in the casino. If you would, give us a thumbs up, a subscribe, a share would be nice too, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Check out these other videos and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more slot tips. It's always free. Visit ropethejackpot.com for free guides and a whole lot more. Catch you on the next episode.